So you guys saw obviously on Saturday, Charlie McAvoy, that was so scary. Took a puck to the face and bled right away. Dustin Stuck came out. He left, did not come back. So let's hear from Marco Sturm about the update on Charlie McAvoy, and we'll talk about who's being called up and what's going on.
Yeah, no, he's with the doctors right now, so there's no timeline. Obviously, he's going to be out tonight, and we'll see how he goes today with his with all his appointments. I don't know. Yeah, again, I'm not in charge, so we have to wait and see.
All right, I've been talking a lot, Kasey. I have my thoughts, but I also got to share them on the post-game show. So your thoughts on all of this and what you saw when you saw it, like scary, very scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, too, where it looks so scary that you didn't exactly want to tweet about it either, because you didn't want to put any sort of context out there that wouldn't line up. But the scariest part being it hitting him directly in the face. And, I mean, some people were telling me that they did a slow-mo of the video and you actually, like, saw a tooth fall out of his mouth. And then on the broadcast, they're sitting there talking about it being, like, an average of, like, a 90 to 100-mile puck to the face. So a lot of things that just kind of immediately instilled fear in all of us. And it's just like, it's not just about the campaign that he's having right now and how well he's playing for this team. It's what his presence is in the locker room. And depending on the extent of the injury, that kind of removes players from being around the team for some time. So it was good to find out that he was able to fly back with the team, that he's meeting with the doctor today being Monday. So hopefully we'll get some answers there. But we know it's going to take a lot to take Charlie McAvoy out of this lineup.
100%. I think the fear was on Saturday. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is just like little things I'm reading. I didn't, a real journalist would have called the doctor and be like, what does this mean? I didn't do that. But but the fear was if he's not flying back, then there's a serious risk of concussion, right? And you can't pressure and air and all that kind of stuff. So he flew back with the team. That's a huge positive. Yeah. The other thing is, and we know Zdeno Chara came back with a broken jaw, his mouth wired shut. Like that was crazy in the postseason, trying to win a Stanley Cup. Like that was an anomaly. That was crazy. That should not be the standard of expectation for coming back. Yeah. So if it is a broken jaw, which would be really scary, you can't really, Chara did it because there were 2 games left in your season and playoffs. You could win the Stanley Cup, exactly. Like just not, it wasn't round 1. It was the final. That made sense. But for Charlie, especially with the Olympics coming up, broken jaw, like you're not risking that. So I'm really hoping for his sake it's not that. I hope it's just bruising. We haven't seen him. Maybe his eyes, it was up here. It looked like it bounced. Maybe his eye's so swollen that it needs to be able to open up. Like we have no idea. But the good news is he flew back with the team. And it is, going to be, the timeline is not clear. So once we find out if it's a broken jaw, then we'll have a better idea.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, there's nothing that screams rush this along whatsoever. If there's one thing that we've seen this Bruins team and organization end up having to do very well so far this season is maneuver around the adversity and the many injuries that have tended to pile up. And those opportunities have opened doors for other players so that they can really get a feel for what they have, what does depth look like, and, what does the near future of this team look like regarding any sort of changes that can come down the stretch of an off season or next season. So these are all, I don't want to say positives because it's not positive to have the injuries, but these are all things that an organization typically doesn't start figuring out till the second half of the season when things get extremely exhausting, and the Bruins are sorting through it now.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how behind the scenes works when it comes to bringing guys back, but like with Hampus Lindholm, we saw the Bruins struggling without him, and it's his choice, the doctor's choice, the team's choice about how much rest he needs, this and that. But if the team's like flying without you, you probably can buy a little bit more time. If not, then maybe the timelines are a little bit reassessed. But so far, the call-ups have all proven to be like, oh, okay, like this is good. You're filling in nicely. We're not, losing games because we're missing key players. And so that we hope that continues to be the case. The Providence Bruins, 12-2-0 to start the year. Lots of forwards playing very well. I can definitely go over that list, and we will. But, AHL hockey, you've heard every single NHL player that has compared the two say it's a completely different beast. So it's no disrespect to the AHL, but it is a different beast. So we'll see. Just because the numbers are good in the AHL doesn't mean they translate. But when the team is rolling and individual players are rolling, and so far the few call-ups that they have had have been good, you've got to think that there's at least a ease in the call-ups, which are Matěj, Blümel, and Tufte. And Kasey, I'll let you get a word in, but why don't we actually hear from Sturm about the call-ups?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about what this means for the Bruins.
Marco, what has Riley done this year that's kind of elevated him in Providence, that's helped him get closer to get back to the NHL?
Yeah, no, he's. Last time I looked, he was number one, I think, in general in the AHL. So he did a lot of good things. I remember him when we played against him, in Colorado against the Eagles. So I know what he can bring for the team. So he just deserves the call up, and because he's been, that good this season.
Was Matěj pretty close to making it in training camp?
I can't remember training. When was training camp? No, it's just, again, what I remember training camp was there were a lot of opportunities, and I don't know if he was close or not. He just didn't make it. So, but what I remember also, all those guys who went down, Steves, and the message they got from me is you got to wait for your opportunity, right? And you got to work hard down there, and you got to prove us that you want to be up here, and now's your opportunity. That's how it works.
The message was sent. We know Matěj Blümel especially. He was very vocal in training camp about why he chose the Bruins. He felt he was going to have the best chance to be up with the big club. He was sent down to start the season. Don't know exactly how he took that. I'm sure he's going to talk about it before he plays his first game. I'm very excited to see him. Kasey, your thoughts on Tufte and Blümel coming up?
Yeah, you just called for Blümel last week when somebody was asking, are we going to see anyone soon? And you're like, I've been waiting for Blümel. Now, as we get closer to Christmas, a dream come true. And I'd say I'm right there with you. I mean, this is a guy that was kind of anticipated to make that opening night roster, considering the numbers he was putting up in Texas and how they thought it would translate to the NHL a bit quicker. But I will say, even though it's not being vocalized, we've seen and heard from the guys about the intricacies of this new system and the acclimatization, and we saw a different degree of training camp take place for these guys. And in order to function in a hybrid system, there's a huge defensive responsibility. So you've got a lot of skilled players that kind of have to start to evolve those defensive tendencies, and I think that's kind of the degree of separation for Blümel and how he ended up in Providence versus staying up here in Boston, continuing to be able to hone in on how he can be defensively responsible. But what I'm excited about is that he's projected to be back alongside Zacha. We saw that when Zacha punched in back to the center from wing in the beginning of training camp, he was playing with Jeannot and Blümel. So there's a lot of familiarity there, even though they changed up what was going on the left wing. They tried to make it consistent between Zacha and Blümel getting those reps together. So them two living together for a time being, getting the chance to have those reps together in training camp. I'm excited to see how that translates. And then when it comes to Tufte, you're talking about a guy who's a massive body. Me and Trevor were talking about it before the show. Just in case anyone missed it, we're talking about a 6'6", 240 guy entering the lineup. And his first NHL goal was a nice nitty-gritty cleanup goal when he was playing for the Dallas Stars upon his first call-up. So to know that he can fit the DNA in the bill of kind of getting into those dirty areas, considering the players that are no longer going to be in the lineup with the injuries that have accumulated, I feel like it's a really fun starting point for both Tufte and Blümel to see, what they learned in Providence and what can translate to the Bruins.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I actually really don't know, but Arvidsson obviously being out, so Blümel will likely get the spot, like you said, right wing.
Yeah.
Zacha centering, and Steves is going to stay left wing, or Tufte's going to go left wing?
Yeah, we actually have Scott's tweet here, if we can pull it up, showing the lineups from this morning. You've got Geeky, Husnudinov, Pasta, top line, Steve, Zacha, Blümel, second line, Jeannot, and Kastelik, which we knew we don't want to play with that one. It's been tremendous. And then Tufte, Kuraly, Asimont on the fourth line.
Okay, love that. Okay, so Tufte, bigger body on the fourth line. That was hard. Thank you, Scott, for that, but that was hard to read. What the heck?
I know.
Wait, what?
The format's doing weird things. That's not our producers. That's just crazy formatting.
I was like, what is that? What? Okay, so Tufte with the bigger body on the fourth line. Okay, we love that.
Yeah.
And like you said, don't mess with what's been working very well. But I'm so excited to see how these guys hone in on their opportunities. Really quick, just to give our fans and listeners a rundown of kind of what's been going on in Providence. Like I said, 12-2-0 start. So Georgi Merkulov with 5 goals and 6 assists. So this is in 14 games, of course. I don't have their games played, so I don't know if any of them missed it. But the The Providence Bruins have played 14. Don's Loch Mellis. I think I'm getting close to nailing that 5 goals.
I've still heard it 5 different ways.
Right? Don's Loch Mellis. Patrick Brown, 6 goals, 10 assists. Fabian Lysell, 6 goals, 6 assists. Matty Poitras, 1 goal with 6 assists. Matěj Blümel, of course, being called up. So 2 goals and 11 assists. So way more helpers there. And Riley Tufte, 8 goals, 8 assists. Wanted to just dive in on Lysell really quick. So Blümel getting the chance instead. We have, of course, but management has also seen more of a sample size of Lysell up with the big team than they have Matěj Blümel. I feel like that's why. I feel like they kind of know what they're getting. And I know, of course, Lysell can progress and change. But in my opinion, that's probably why Blümel has been called up instead. Your thoughts on that? Or do you think he's just been playing better down there?
It could be a combination of things. When I was digging around some of the reports of how the guys were doing down in Providence and some of the matchups, you did see that Lysell went from being trusted on like a top 6 role to being bumped down to the 4th line. Not punishment, but it just seems like it was kind of a lesson learned opportunity for him because it came off of a pretty bad turnover, a number of turnovers that have taken place down in Providence. So Mark, who we had on the show, had the tweet just kind of putting out the timeline there of just like, bad turnover and then ends up on the 4th line. And when you're in that bottom 6 role, you are tasked with being more responsible defensively. And maybe not the best training camp for him, but there was just moments where things got too cute. And we've heard Marco Sturm talk about, not wanting to get too cute with certain things and opportunities. So that could probably be what kind of separates there. And seeing that Blümel is coming in and having strong numbers as a feeder, you're talking about a Zacha who's positioned himself quite well to pick up goals. And you're talking about a Steves that could also do so because we've seen some very tenacious plays out of him. So I'd be excited to see that. And then, of course, you mentioned we'll dive into the Carolina matchup, but whoever's between the pipes, you've seen defense let up a number of shots from that right circle. So if Blümel's coming in on that right circle, has a really good shot, opens up passing lanes, that could probably be another thing that elevated him as well, considering the matchup.
Yeah, no, great point there, especially with your puck possession and puck management. I think that's been said in different ways here in this system, but also systems across the league, that if you can't manage the puck, or not can't, but if you're doing giveaways or a bit sloppy with the puck, not hard on the puck in the AHL, you're going to get blown up in the NHL, and that those tiny mistakes are just that much bigger. And the Bruins can't afford to do that, especially as they are still working out the defensive structure. Like, you can't be giving away breakaway opportunities or turnovers. This is something that maybe that's the focus for Lysell.